Sup everyone. So I just want to come in here quickly to make a video about a topic that has been on my mind for a couple of days now. But first, let me pour myself a cup of tea. So I have my Moroccan tea glass courtesy of Agadir and Marrakesh's finest herbal tea. All right. So today's topic, or rather tonight's topic, is about making and taking advantage of opportunities. So basically, if I think about my own experience, sis, my success isn't attributed solely to what I know. It's also attributed to who I know or who I knew. Now, it's my intention to the people who don't understand how important it is to socialize, to make connections, to go to conventions, to network. Who don't understand the importance to network, to get them to understand why it is important to network in today's day and age. So again, the subtitle, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. So back in the day, if you want to take the example of 100 years ago, you could get a good job or you could enable a very successful, innovative endeavor just off of the back of what you knew. Whether you were technically, whether you had a high technical acumen or you were very good at science or you were a very good nurse or a shrewd businessman, you could literally make or break success based off of what you knew. But in today's world, technology has opened up so many avenues to improve our lifestyles or to complement the things that we already were used to doing. Many processes are automated. We have the internet, we have communications, we have computational techniques, all ingrained in our society, and it wraps around a lot of what we do, both in the workplace and for entertainment, socially as well. So with the world being a lot more complex, it fits in that there is now a saturation of knowledge. Now, what do I mean by that? I may be using the wrong terms here, so don't get too on me on that. What I mean by saturation of knowledge is that anyone can, just open up their phones, pick up some knowledge, and then just, share it as if it was them who came up with that particular piece of knowledge, whether it was factual or whether it was an informed opinion. Same when your computers, everyone has access to a computer, everyone has access to a tablet. Everyone has access to some form of connecting themselves with the wider world. In fact, they call this world a global village now. So, with there being so much information around, and with there being so many more avenues to access that information, how do you tell? How can you pick apart who is actually good with that knowledge, who can apply that knowledge, or who is just a bookworm, someone who just has a lot of facts in their head? How do you distinguish between the former and the latter? And it comes down to building relationships, networking, and knowing certain people in certain places. And especially when with this knowledge being so freely available and so many people having access to this knowledge, positions are a lot more competitive. So even to work a job in Sainsbury's, back in the day, you might have been able to walk into Sainsbury's with just your CV and the promise of a good work ethic, and you would have gotten the job. These days, there's 50. Well, anecdotal. There's 50 people for that same customer service position in Sainsbury's. Now, when you move higher up the professional ladder, it becomes even more competitive, because now it's not just about what you know; it's about what you did, and it's about what you did with who. Okay, so especially to people in minority groups. Now, I'm using the word minority very particularly because we live in the Western world where the majority race is Caucasian. Okay, so black people, Asian people, Latina, etc. We are a minority. Let's just agree on that. We are a minority. So I live in UK where I'm classified as a minority. A lot of people in my group, we have this sort of vainglory. I'm not going to call it pride because pride isn't necessarily a bad thing. Okay, it's good to be proud of your achievements. It's good to be proud of yourself. But bad pride is what I like to call vainglory. When you place too much importance on what you've done or what you are, and then that blinds you from being able to improve yourself. That blinds you from being able to, say, work with another person in order to, get somewhere. So I call that vaingloriousness, and that always comes before a fall. So a lot of us, we have this vainglory characteristic where we feel that it's beneath us to network. It's beneath us to be someone's protege. It's beneath us to go talk to this person, whatever race or or sex that person may be. It's beneath us to go talk to that person and try and glean some information from them. And that actually does cost us a lot of opportunities. So I'm going to use myself as an example, okay? And I have a long history, starting from my BSc, so my bachelor's degree. So when I was 18, 19, I started my bachelor's degree at the University of Bristol to study physics. Now, at first it was an MSc, but due to a culmination of things, I didn't do too well. Or by the end of my second year, I knew I hadn't done too well, so they demoted me to a standard bachelor's degree. Now, but by the time the end of my second year was coming around, I knew that I was in a lot of danger, where if I finished the third year with a 2-2 and nothing else, a lot of opportunities would have been closed off to me. So I started doing my homework. And because I was very interested in things like fusion and renewable energies, I began to look up the foremost institutions that were quite deep in that subject. So the first institution that came, in fact, the only institution that came up was Cullum Science Centre for Fusion Energy, CCFE. And I spoke to some of the head tutors in Bush University to get them to fund me for a 2 to 3 month placement at Cullum Science Centre for Fusion Energy. And I got in contact with a doctor there, who was a foremost expert in some diagnostic technique. It's called the Thompson scattering technique, but I'm not going to go into the physics of that. And we got things sorted out, and for 2 to 3 months of the summer holiday, I commuted from London to Oxford every day, Monday to Friday, to study and work with this doctor. And I began to see how things were done at the high research level. Now, that was enough experience to get me to do a very good master's at the University of York. Not only that, but the fact that I knew Dr. Rory Scannell and I had done some work directly for him. Now, I've just mentioned his name. I didn't mention his name before, but I've just mentioned his name. This guy was the expert in Thompson scattering, in the Thompson scattering diagnostic. There were several processes on two of the tokamak. Well, there's only two tokamaks at CECFE as far as I remember. As far as I can remember, there was the normal GET tokamak, and there was the spherical low aspect ratio MAST tokamak. And in the MAST tokamak, Dr. Rory Scannell was the foremost expert of electron density, electron temperature, edge mode, um, um, edge mode turbulences in the plasmas. So the fact that I had worked with him that set me on a higher pedestal when it came to applying for a master's at the University of York. Now, this master's wasn't an ordinary master's. It wasn't just, oh, just come and study. This master's had its own facility dedicated, and it was highly competitive. It was very, very competitive. And I was able to get in on that master's on a 2-2. So, fast forward. I worked hard during my master's, and I came out with a merit. I was about 2% off of this of a distinction, which is the highest grade. But think of it as an A, and distinction is an A star. So I basically got an A for my masters. If you were to categorize it in conventional A, B, C, D, E, F, G grades. And I did, for my summer project, I did an industrial plasmas experiment, experimental investigation. And my supervisor, he was a nice guy. He was one of the experts at the facility for industrial plasmas, low temperature industrial plasmas. And when I handed in my thesis for that particular MSc project, I decided that I wanted to do a doctorate. And I went to him and said, "Hey, I would like to do a doctorate. I want to do a PhD. Can you get me in contact with someone who does research on industrial plasma so that I can do a 4-year research project with them for my PhD?" And boom, within a week, he got me in contact with a professor called Nick Braithwaite. Now, that is another example of me having known somebody, and then he got me in contact with another person. Now, because I worked under him, this other person, Professor Nick Braithwaite, was able to, give me an interview and really assess what I was good at and whether I would be a good fit for this PhD. And, I got accepted onto the PhD. Now, 2 years later, now I know this is a long story, but trust me, it does get better. 2 years later, in about 2015, I went to a conference in Austria. Now, this conference was it was based on a joint European project for beyond CMOS devices. What that means is it's just a fancy way of saying we are going to make devices much smaller, much faster, more functional, and we need better processors in order to do it. So we need to have processors that have better artifice. We need more cunning. We need to understand the physical principles that underpin these processes better so that we can optimize these processes. And part of my work was to contribute to this joint European project. Now, at this conference, I gave a talk on my work. Nobody was really interested, fair enough, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I had ideas, but the penny hadn't dropped yet, so I was I was still trying to pick my way through. This one guy, this old man, stood up in the crowd, in the audience, and he asked me a question. And I was quite taken aback. This guy, one of the first guys to show interest in my work. And he asked me a question about my work, and we were just jamming together. Then afterwards, when everybody else has dispersed, he came to see me again, and we were once again jamming together about the work. And he introduced himself. Now, I'm not going to say his name because it's very important that I forgot what his name was then. I only remembered his name 2 to 3 years down the line. He introduced himself and he said that he was this guy and that guy, blah, blah. Okay? Fast forward 2 to 3 years later when I had handed in my thesis. So I had done all my experimental work. I had written up my thesis. Now was the time to choose an internal examiner and an external examiner to examine my work and do my viva. A viva is an interview which is between the PhD student, i.e. me, and 2 different experts in the field. The external expert is going to be the expert in the field which the PhD was investigated in. The internal expert is like a sort of unbiased. She doesn't know anything about the work, so she's going to look at it with fresh eyes, and well, I say she because my internal examiner was a she, but he or she is going to look at it with fresh eyes, and basically examine it based upon readability, whether it has good flow, whether you can learn from it, and if there's anything if there's anything in the thesis that ties to her work, he or she will also ask you a question or engage in discussion about that, right? So we chose my internal examiner. That was easy. Now the external examiner, we needed to choose someone who knew about plasma physics. Not only that, but had a good understanding of industrial plasma physics, technological plasmas. Now I didn't know anyone, and I can't use my PhD supervisor because that he would be a biased examiner. So one of my colleagues suggested this particular person, and they said that this person's name was Phil Pruitt, Professor Phil Pruitt. How he's a Donny in the field, and how he's retired, and how he does a lot of stuff. Okay, I said cool, fair enough. I don't want anyone who doesn't know about the kind of work that I do to examine my work anyway. So yeah, let's definitely have him be the external examiner. Fast forward like 2 months to 3 months later, when the day of the Viva came. Now, the night before the Viva, I realized I still didn't know who this guy Phil Pruitt was. So on a whim, I decided to Google him to see, to see what he did, what he looked like, blah blah. And I saw his picture came up on Google, and I was like, this face looks kind of familiar. Where have I seen him from? Well, woke up fresh faced the next morning, took the train to Milton Keynes to do my Viva. As I walked in the room, a man stood up from the table, and recognition sprung in my head. In my head, I was like, you were at that you were at that conference in Austria. That was what I was thinking in my head. He now stood up, he took my hand and said, young man, it's good to see you again. As it happens, he had been monitoring my work through my PhD supervisor. So my PhD supervisor, Professor Nick Braithwaite, is also a Don in the field, and they were, close friends. The plasma physics community is very, very highly, we're very, very talented, but it's a very small group, because to get into plasma physics, you need to do so much. So almost everyone knows each other in a sense. Well, at least at the highest research level. This guy had been monitoring my work for like the last 2 to 3 years. He was just waiting for me to finish. So when the time came for him to examine me, we literally just had a discussion. We were just jamming about the work. I didn't feel as if, it was ask me a question. Oh, I need to answer it. I'm under pressure. No, it was like, oh, I did this because of that. This didn't go too well because of this. What could I have done better? And it was such a good flow. And of course, I passed my PhD in flying colors. Now, if I continue and talk about my professional career in industry, again, there are opportunities that I took advantage of. Doing my PhD, I didn't want to just do my PhD by itself. I did my PhD, and part-time, I also worked as a tutor, mentor. I worked for several different companies, and in doing that, I built my portfolio. So when I started out as a tutor, I was earning £12 an hour. Today, I earn £55 an hour privately, and I have people headhunting me, oh, can you teach my daughter, can you teach my son? And it's basically up to me if I want to teach them or not. Not that like I'm chasing after clients. At the beginning, I was chasing after clients because I needed the money. These days, the clients, oh, they know me through this person, or they've seen my credentials. They would like me to teach their son or daughter. So from £12 an hour to £55 an hour, and that's only going to keep rising as I, if I dedicate more time to building that up. Okay. For the current job I have now, it started by me meeting some guys at a expo in Coventry, and I knew one of them from before. He was a guy that I did a seminar with at the Institute of Physics in Earls Court. So we were doing a seminar on fusion energy, and he was there, and we exchanged details, and we had a brief meeting, blah blah blah, etc. I met him again and his other colleague in Coventry and an expo, and he was like, "Hey Ade, I know your background. I know you're a plasma physicist, and you're very good, with building sources and diagnostics, and being innovative. It would be really nice if I could work with you. Like if you could, join our team." And the other guy said, "Yeah, yeah, we would. I would like you on our team." And it all started from there. Then in the evening, we went to the pub. We bought each other drinks. He got the first round in. The second guy got the second round in. I got the third round in. We went to dinner. He got the first round in. He got the second round in. I got the third round in. Already, we are building that camaraderie. We are building that as if we are already a team. Yeah. Now, what you need to know that decisions aren't just formed in the boardroom. Decisions are not just formed and concluded between the board of directors. They start from the pub. They start from dinner. They start from lunch. Okay, it's either conversation, it's comments, it's just following someone and seeing what they do. It starts from there. You need to see opportunities and take advantage of them. So as it turns out, they went back to their superior and like, "Oh, get Addy in here. We want him to work with us. Like he's got a doctorate. He's very high up. Blah blah blah. He would really do good work with us." And within 2 months, I got a senior position at the company, and it's a global company. I earn good money. I moved to a different city. I've got my own place. What can I say except opportunities landed me here? It wasn't just what I knew, it was who I knew and who I had engaged with, who I had networked with. So to finish up this long ass video, I want to say that for anyone watching, some good advice would be to just attend conventions, attend conferences. If you're interested in finance, do a Google search. See what free open not even webinars, but free open seminars. Where they at? What time they start? When? Just go to them. Talk to people. Go to the pub. Go to the bar with a few of the people that you meet there. Make friends. That friend is now gonna like go back and say, "Oh, I met this guy. He's got great ideas." Or I met this really nice lady. She's got a passion for this particular project. What say we work together on this? And it starts from there. You must be ready, always ready to take advantage of someone else's experiences, what someone else has to offer. There is no shame in being underneath someone for a while to get above them later. Right? And what I mean by that, being someone's protege, being someone's student. Everyone wants to pretend like they're the boss. No, you're not a boss, not yet, okay? You still have a lot of learning to do. I'm still learning. And I'm proud to say I'm learning every day. Even though I manage some part of a team, I'm still learning every day. And even my team members, I learn from them. And then my manager, the innovation manager and the director, I answer to them and I learn from them also. And all it's going to do is open up more opportunities for me. The same way it can open up more opportunities for you. So I just wanted to end the video on that note. And I hope you learned something from this video. You learned something from my experiences. And you start the week just ready to take advantage of whatever opportunities life throws at you.